Hey everyone, it's Russell, and today I got another R.L. Stine Goosebumps original series era Goosebumps book review video for you guys today. And plus, I'm going to be also comparing this particular book to its sequel and how I feel about the sequel too, if I like it more than the original or not. Anyways, this is book 4, I believe. Yes, I believe it's book 4 in the original 62 era of Goosebumps by R.L. Stine, called Say Cheese and Die. Plus, with its sequel, if I could just get it, called Say Cheese and Die Again. Now, I forget the number of the sequel, but man, these two books are so different from each other. In, like, I guess you could say unique-ish ways, but they're very, very different. Yeah, I'm just gonna start talking about the original book first, because that's mostly what this review is gonna be about. Yeah, Say Cheese and Die. This is one of my most likely favorite R.L. Stine Goosebumps original series books I've ever read. So far in my life. It is just so effective. It is one of the most darkest and creepiest, scariest, intense, fast-paced, and suspenseful books, too, in the series that I've ever read. One of the most. But now, when it comes to its sequel, Say Cheese and Die Again, I'm just going to tell you, I did not like the sequel as much as this book. As much as the original. I know a lot of people really do not like this sequel as much as the original either. And I didn't think the sequel was actually that bad, you know. It was just, I'm just going to tell you, it was more overall silly than actually scary and dark like what this book had. It was just a silly, fun mess, I guess you could say. But I liked the sequel. I just did not love it at all as much as the original. The original just was so much scarier. It was actually a lot less humorous. There was just very, very little silly sequences in this book. Similar to Welcome to Dead House. Except Welcome to Dead House actually had no humorous scenes at all, while this one I think picked up a few at least, but still very, very few. But this one just, yeah, the sequel just had more silly sequences to it. This copy I showed in my previous book haul library, R.L. Stine Goosebumps Library book haul. It's a reprint. Yeah, so I don't own this copy. Yeah, I really liked Say Cheese and Die Again. Just not quite as much as the original. But with the original book, basically, you know, you have Greg Banks, the iconic. I just put the sequel down for a minute until later. Yeah, so you have Greg Banks in this book, which, yeah, he and his friends come back in the sequel, too. The sequel doesn't actually really continue off of this book, off the original. Well, it kind of sort of also does, but not so much. But it's just, yeah, it's just an alright sequel. Yeah, the cover art on the original also looks a ton better. Also with the color scheme with red and the gray. Really good mixture. Of course, red is my favorite color. Comparable to the sequel's cover art. And tell me which one you like more. They're both kind of similar. But, you know, this one just looks more scary overall. I mean, also one thing I did notice is that the skeletons on the sequel cover actually have eyes, but the skeletons on the cover of the original don't, as you can see, which is pretty interesting to make it more darker, I'm assuming. Yeah. So you have Greg Banks, you have his three friends, Michael, Shari, and Bird. Well, his nickname is Bird. Yeah, it's Michael, Shari, or Sherry, whatever, and Bird. and then they all live in Pitt's Landing, which is just kind of boring town, or I think it was a town, I guess you could say. It was just kind of boring for them. And one summer day they just wanted to find something to do because they're so bored. They're just walking around, and then they came across the old abandoned deserted Kaufman house, which is rumored to be haunted. I think it was either that or a murder actually took place in there. I don't really remember. I think it was a murder. I could be wrong on both of those. I haven't read this book in so long, so I don't remember as much about it now. But yeah, they're really bored, and then they decide to dare each other, I think, to actually go into the Kaufman house as a dare to like explore and be brave and all that stuff. So all of them actually take the dare and do it. Greg at first didn't really want to do it, but then his friends convinced him, I think. So all four of them went inside the Kaufman house. And while they're exploring, Greg, in the basement of the house, Greg comes across this like kind of secret, cool hiding place where he opens it up, and then he finds the, of course, iconic, mysterious, cursed, haunted camera. And then he wants to start taking pictures with it, with his friends and everything. He takes one picture of Michael, and then right after he takes the picture shows him Michael falling off the stairs, I think. Yeah, the stairs that go up to the upper floor and down to the basement. Yeah, the photograph shows Michael falling off, off the rail, I think. And then he does, right after the picture's taken, not too long after, which, yeah, but you think after that first picture was taken, you'd think that all four of them would just think finally think oh, this is a bad idea. I think we should stop doing this. It's a dangerous camera. It predicts the future. At least that's what they suspect. And Greg eventually suspects, I think, the second picture he takes, which he takes a picture of his father's car, his station wagon, I think. And then the picture shows it totally wrecked and totaled. Just totally wrecked. And then later, while Greg's family just goes on a little test drive, I think, in his dad's new car, then they crash. So just like what happened in the photograph that they took. So yeah, after that second picture, Greg really starts to suspect that the camera can predict the future, and it's just dangerous. It predicts all these dangerous things happening in the future. But after that, I think Greg goes to Shari's birthday party. And then Shari ultimately wants Greg to take her picture. And so he does. And then in the photograph, Shari isn't even there. The tree's in the background, but Shari is not even there. And then I think a couple minutes after the picture's taken, Shari just mysteriously disappears, just like what happened in the photo. Yeah, it was just so much fun, so dark and intense and goofy. I loved it a lot. Now, there's also this guy always dressed in black. He's just kind of a really skinny dude, and he's so weird, and everybody calls him Spidey. He's a scientist. You find out his real name in the very twist ending of this book, which I'm not going to spoil it. So yeah, he does have a real name, but everybody in Pitt's Landing nicknames him Spidey. My apologies. Cannot talk today. So yeah, Spidey, he's harmless, I'm pretty sure, in the book, but he's just so weird. Greg also starts to suspect that he is starting to spy on him and his friends right after they stole the camera. Then Greg starts to get kind of worried, and then he kind of starts to think maybe we should just return the camera and forget about it forever. Which, yeah, they do in the very twist ending, which, hopefully that's not a spoiler. I don't think I spoiled it there, but, yeah, this book, it didn't, this book felt like it was one of the most twist ending lists, or books, Goosebumps books I've ever read. It just didn't even have a twist ending. It was the only kind of twist ending plot that it had to it was dealing with Spidey and his true identity and like if he's evil or not, but not so much with the camera and other things. So yeah, that's kind of what I didn't like at all about this book. Everything else is perfect. Absolutely perfect. Now, there is one scene where I think Greg returns to his house, to his bedroom, during, I think, near the middle of the book, and he just finds his bedroom absolutely torn up and destroyed. I mean, just totally ransacked or not ransacked. What am I trying to say here? Whatever. Yeah, he just totally finds it just destroyed. All of his stuff is just thrown out everywhere on the ground. His bed, I think, was unmade too. All of his stuff, and that really made him mad. And that also made him start to suspect if Spidey had something to do with that too. Not the camera. It wasn't the camera that Greg suspected had done that to his room. But he suspected it was Spidey, because he's always just kind of been roaming around the shadows, kind of spying on them. So, yeah, that's what Greg starts to suspect. And that is as much as I'm going to tell you about this book. I'll do a book review soon of Say Cheese and Die again. I just didn't really quite like this sequel as much as the original, which is very common. I think very few people actually prefer the sequel over the original. Again, as I mentioned before, this book is just so overly silly. It kind of deals with that, it kind of has that fat shaming type thing going on with it. It's just that kind of like overweight fat shame to it, which has something to do with the camera itself too, the consequences, the things that the camera takes, the photographs, are not as dark or as scary or serious or as dangerous as the ones took it, or as the pictures took it in the original. I still liked Say Cheese and Die again. I liked Mr. Sour. Sour, S-A-U-R, I think that's his name. Everybody in the class, Nick's name. Ugh, I cannot talk today. I cannot say nickname. My goodness. Yeah, everybody nicknames. There we go. I keep wanting to say Nick's names. Like, Nick. Everybody nicknames Mr. Sour Ball, so I kind of found that a little bit funny. He's just kind of a really rude teacher, honestly. Mostly everybody dislikes him, but anyways, guys, that wraps up my book review for you guys today. Comment down below, subscribe down below, and I'll see you again in my next videos. Take care.